Hi, my name's Shivam. I have graduated from KIT. You might have or might not have heard of it back in 2023. Since graduation, I've been working as a software developer. I have interned at McKinsey & Company previously as a 6-month intern. I knew I could do much more, but I needed guidance. So I reached out to Vivek on LinkedIn saying that, hey, can I join AlgoZenith even if I have graduated already, don't have a job? Will it help me actually secure a job?
AZ generally works well at that spot.
Yes, it works, and I would say it's a huge library of resources. Vivek also gave his own rules of making notes, which he discusses in class.
Process of Google, and I think you already mentioned that the recruiter reached out to you. So once the recruiter reached out, what happened? Like, what was the timeline after that? Like, can you give us?
He's a ex-Google interviewer, and he shares what questions he used to ask. So that is a good resource in itself.
Maybe Shivam will compile all the resources after this call and will put it down in the description for the viewer to kind of go through.
Yes.
Right. Everybody thinks that I need to prepare, right?
Yeah.
What advices would you give them? Like, how should they kind of go through this process?
Yes. The recruiters also ask what amount of time do you need to prepare for the interviews. So it's not like the recruiter reached out and the next week your interview will be scheduled. They will ask. You can ask 2-3 weeks, of course. Very comfortably, you can ask 2-3 weeks. They want software engineers, not I think mathematicians who sit in a room and do research. And they need to have practical skills. You're presented with a problem, you need to solve it within a stipulated time.
Which topics would you feel are the most important for Google? Welcome everyone to the first episode of this new set of podcasts that I'm recording, and I'm having Shivam here at my home, which is the first time we are doing the setup and everything. So let's see how this rolls. So Shivam, we're going to talk about a lot about your journey, but let's start with a quick introduction because that will tell the audience who you are, what you have been doing till now. So maybe you can start with that.
Hi, my name's Shivam. I have graduated from KIT. You might have or might not have heard of it back in 2023. Since graduation, I've been working as a software developer. I have interned at McKinsey & Company previously as a 6-month intern. And then I worked at a company called Anko, which is basically a subsidiary for Kmart and Target Australia here in India. So we have GCCs, Global Centers for supermarkets. So I worked for Target and Kmart, mostly working on technologies like C#, .NET, Xamarin Forms. These are some of the technologies, and a little bit experience on I would say JavaScript and front-end technologies like React as well.
Got it. And very recently, you have also interviewed and have cracked the offer for Google. So first of all, congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
And we're going to talk a lot about it. And I think a lot of how did you go through the preparation phase? What was the timeline? How did the process for Google go on? And what were your learnings? What are some advices? All these things we'll talk about. So let's start from the point of time where you started preparation, right? Because I think you had started preparation before even like the company reaching out to you, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Okay. I will try to summarize this as quick as possible so that it's very succinct to the people watching. I was a 6-month intern at McKinsey, right? I did not really get a return offer. I was, you could say, unemployed for 3 to 4 months at my graduation. I went to my graduation ceremony without having a job, by the way.
Okay.
And I was on a train back from Bhubaneswar to Kolkata when I contacted Vivek. So I had an offer for Salesforce support engineer, technical support engineer. These are people who basically support the customer side of things. So I had an offer for Salesforce technical support engineer, and I knew that I am meant for much more. I knew I could do much more, but I needed guidance. So I reached out to Vivek on LinkedIn saying that, hey, can I join AlgoZenith even if I have graduated already, don't have a job? Will it help me actually secure a job? And Vivek was very confident in and replied in affirmation that yes, we do that kind of support at AlgoZenith. And then whatever money I had left from the internship, I invested that, got the subscription and started off. I also had an ACL injury, which at times prevented me from studying very effectively because the pain used to be so bad. And I have had the AlgoZenith subscription for more than a year. So if I really summarize my months where I've actually studied, it's less than a year, but over the period of, let's say, 1.5 years, is what I've covered the material of AZ. Yes.
Got it.
I was reached out by the recruiter slightly before Christmas 2024, and that's when the interview process actually began. I had applied through the portal as well, taking someone's referral, but I'm really not sure whether it was the referral which gave me the recruiter call it, because the email said that, hey, I'm reaching out, would you like to interview?
Got it.
And
I don't think the referral counted in that case.
yes. So, and that is how the interview process began. The recruiters are very, I would say, clear about what they want out of you. They'll tell you when the interview is scheduled. They'll ask you for your time slots, when you're available, when you're not. They'll schedule your meetings that way, and everything is made super clear. If you have any doubts, you can reach out to them, and they will make sure that you are totally ready with all the information that you need before you begin your interview. I gave five rounds in total, 4 data structure and algorithms for L3 role, and 1 Googliness and leadership interview.
Okay. So I think we understood that you had the preparation phase before this. Did you do much of DSA in college?
Yes, I did.
Like the standard lead code?
Yes, standard lead code stuff. I mean, the McKinsey interview at my college did ask DSA questions, so I was versed with it, although I would not say very well versed, because the training is hard. This training is hard, so it gives you a lot more material than what you find out there. But I was preparing because I knew I could do it, and whatever I could lay my hands on, I did that.
Yeah, I mean, like basic one, like there is standard 400, 500 problems of
Yes,
code has like level 2 prep, but then after that, like you generally find it very hard to grow from there. So I think AZ generally works well
Yes.
that spot.
Yes, it works. And I would say it's a huge library of resources. Like the videos are itself 3 hours long. So you have to really sit. I would say for me, a 3-hour video took 6 hours to fully assimilate. Because you have to make notes, right? You have to make your own notes. So you will pause and you'll write. And Vivek also gave his own rules of making notes, which he discusses in class. I use a slight modification of that. What I used to do is I used to listen first and then try to remember. It is called active recall. You can search it up on the internet. That whatever you have listened till now, try to actively recall what you have listened till now and try to write it in your own words. That is how you make the best notes.
Yeah, like basically, I think even I talked about this in one of the classes, that when you try to write too many things while listening, it's like cognitive offloading, right? Like you want to just write it off and get it out of your memory, so you don't retain it much.
Yeah, your brain is trained in a way that, hey, it is written, I don't need to remember it.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you recall, your brain is getting wired. There's a saying in neuroscience, neurons that fire together, wire together.
Nice.
So you basically are training your brain to actually remember stuff, because you're writing it down by actively calling it and making your brain work for it.
Got it. Cool. So we understood like you had done the prep and all, and I think most people who are watching this already know what AZ and stuff are. So now let's move to specifically to the process of Google. And I think you already mentioned that the recruiter reached out to you. So once the recruiter reached out, what happened? Like what did you, like you gave an affirmation that you want to give an interview, right? So what was the timeline after that? Like can you give us like
Yes. So I was contacted slightly before Christmas. She asked for my resume, updated resume. I sent her that over email, but because it is a year-end shutdown in corporate mostly, where people go on leaves, so I tried not to disturb her and reached out post the New Year break. And I did a few follow-ups, and she replied that, okay, we have acknowledged your resume and we'll be setting up calls. So there is something, a call is set up where you are explained basically the whole process. It is given over an email as well, but there is a separate call, very short call, where you're explained how the interview process will look like, and then you're actually scheduled interviews. So that was in January. My first interview was scheduled January end. If I remember, it was 30 or 31st January. It is called the phone screening round. So these are not the main rounds. This is a kind of a qualifying round which you give, so that you are promoted to the on-site rounds, which are the rounds that will have cumulative feedback, and then you will get to know whether you have cracked it or not. So my on-site rounds were scheduled in February, except one which was scheduled in March. So February.
You said you had 5 rounds, right?
Yeah, 5 rounds.
So you are counting phone screening in that? Yes. Okay. So one phone screen was done. Then you had 4 like on-site total rounds.
On-site total 4 rounds.
Got it.
3 would be DSA, 1 would be not a system design, I would say. It's a HR kind of round, Googliness and leadership round.
Was that completely Googliness or DSA plus Googliness?
No, only Googliness and leadership. There will be a person who will ask you behavioral questions, which you have to answer according to the STAR method.
Yeah.
Situation, task, action, result.
Yeah.
You can look it up on Google, and that is what I would also recommend you to practice on to answer any behavioral question of any company.
I think there are standard 10-12 questions that are asked very frequently in a lot of companies, and I think if you search Google's Googliness questions also,
Yeah, you'll get it. You'll get it. You will actually find a channel. I don't remember the name, but you'll actually find a channel where he's a ex Google interviewer and he shares what questions he used to ask. That is a good resource in itself.
maybe Shiva will compile all the resources after this call and will like put it down in the description for the viewer to kind of go through.
Yes.
Right. I think you also mentioned about the mock interview videos available on Google's channel.
So Google has a channel called Life at Google.
Yeah.
And in that channel, you have a 35-40 minute mock interview video officially made by Google, which shows you how they actually conduct the interviews. So they tell you the question, how you should expect yourself to conduct yourself in the interview, that you explain the problem, write a full working code of it, and then maybe the interviewer will ask follow-ups and you answer that. That is how it goes. If you watch the video, you'll get the full picture, very clear picture of what it looks like.
Got it. I think people, if they search, like they'll get a lot of idea about the process and all. I think let's like quickly touch upon things that I feel you like from your experience we can learn. One is like what would be like top few things you'd recommend someone when they are going through interview, say for Google itself, to do, which you think worked in favor of you during the interviews.
Okay. What you should know is really hone down the basics. You should know the basics really well. It's called first principles thinking. So you should know whatever you're studying, how it works. Suppose I write the depth first search algorithm, DFS. What each line has having an impact on the whole execution of the algorithm, you should know. So that when the question is actually presented to you, you know which line to modify. And you solve the question. If you don't know what each line actually means, what each line is contributing to the overall running of the algorithm, you won't be able to actually pinpoint what line needs to be modified.
Yep.
That is what I mean by saying that you need to really be clear with your basics. I think clearing with your basics, keeping your calm, keep a bottle of water. I always used to keep a bottle of water. And before the interviews, I just sat down with myself, tried breathing, and drank a lot of water, not so much so that I don't have to take washroom breaks, and drank a lot of water, and just remember that it's just an interview. You can always give it later. It's not that if you fail it, Google is never going to interview again. It's just an interview, a chapter of your life, and you have to give it confidently because you have studied for it.
I think people, like when they see Google, at least people do. I mean, I'm very sure. I remember like when we had the first call, when you got the shortlist, you were also thought, Vivek, Google ka aa gaya, like what should I do now? Like,
Yes, I think that's expected. You should be, I would say, very excited about the opportunities you get. Otherwise, how would you even be take you seriously, right? You have to, if you don't take your excitement seriously, you will not take the opportunity seriously.
Yep.
So you take it, but then again, I'm saying right before the interview, drink some water, breathe, focus on your in-breath and out-breath. It really calms you down, and just go and give it. And that's it. The interviewer is not there to reject you, I would say.
Yeah.
The interviewer is actually there to select you because they have volunteered their time out of their busy schedules to actually interview you.
Yeah.
They're not there to simply insult you or
most
on you.
of people, what they don't realize is these are software engineers who have taken out 1 hour of time so that they can interview you. And like even like when we were software engineers, we used to see that people who we have interviewed, did they get selected or not? And it was about a matter of pride that, okay, this person who we interviewed who did really well was actually selected in Google.
Yes.
So this is something that most people, like, I think, feel on the other side.
Yeah, nobody would deliberately try to harm you, and that too with an interview. Come on. Why would they do that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, be calm. I used to listen to music as well. before the interviews, half an hour before, so that I calm myself down. Whatever music. Sometimes I used to listen to very loud music, sometimes even instrumentals. Whatever I felt that would calm me down in the moment.
Being calm, I feel.
Being calm so that you are not clouded by your anxiety. Because once the anxiety rises, you'll think, okay, this is also not working, this is also not working. I am failing the interview, I'm doomed. And the interview will go bad by that itself. You will not even give yourself the chance to actually show what you have practiced, how much hard work you have done, if you let the anxiety take over. I believe so. To not let the anxiety take over, which is a very, I think, widespread problem nowadays. Anxiety, people are gripped by anxiety and they don't know how to come out of it. It's just breathing, listening to music, sipping a lot of water.
Alright. Alongside anxiety, I think one more problem that people have during the preparation phase is distraction, I feel, right?
Yes, and I was a major one. I got distracted a lot. You can take two approaches. Either reduce it bit by bit, which they usually do for other kind of addictions, or quit it to cold turkey. Your brain will revolt because suddenly you're not giving it the input, the constant stream of input that it is used to. But I think it worked the best for me. I cut off Instagram for some time. I simply deactivated my account. And by the way, when you reactivate your account on Instagram, you cannot deactivate it back at least for a week.
So, okay, this is news. I never tried this out.
So if you deactivate your account, you cannot deactivate it and reactivate it again. You cannot deactivate it for a week. So just think. So you have to keep that in mind. If I reactivate it back again by signing in, I may potentially waste 1 week of my time.
Got it.
So I used to always keep that in mind. Do I really need to scroll on Instagram right now? Or is it just my anxiety that is making me scroll it? And I would tell you from experience, whatever worries you are having in mind will not go away from that next 100 scrolls. You have to take action on it, just like data structure algorithms. If you don't practice it, if you don't actually apply what you have learned, probably things are not going to get solved.
Okay. So let's say someone sitting on the other side is right now in very similar situation to you back when you were in your job and suddenly Google reached out, but say they haven't yet gotten that offer yet, but everybody thinks that I need to prepare, right?
Yeah.
What advices would you give them? Like how should they kind of go through this process?
Yes. Suppose a recruiter reached out to you. Calm yourself down. Tell yourself that you have gotten this opportunity for a reason. You are capable enough, otherwise they wouldn't have reached out to you. Believe in yourself and start studying. Revise all the topics that you have studied till now. First, hone down on those things that you're confident you know well and really polish it. Then look out for stuff that you feel you don't know very well and at least practice enough that you can recognize that this is being asked and at least provide some kind of solution to it. Because it may happen that you're not fully prepared. And Google interviewers are generally very good. They will not really bog you down if you don't know that stuff. And the recruiters also ask what amount of time do you need to prepare for the interviews. So it's not like the recruiter reached out and the next week your interview will be scheduled. They will ask. You can ask 2-3 weeks, of course. Very comfortably, you can ask 2-3 weeks. And in those 2-3 weeks, just study like crazy, I would say. Because this is an opportunity that is presented to you.
Yeah.
Study as if you really want to take advantage of it. And I think you will get through. That is what I did. I was also not fully prepared when the recruiter reached out. I asked her for a time of 3 weeks. And in those 3 weeks, whatever topics I had left on the dashboard of AZ website, I just completed it, solved the question. If I had any doubts, I reached out to the doubt forum or Sanamdeep, who is active on the Slack channel that we have, and just told him that, hey, I need this solution. And if I don't understand, I used to really chase him that, hey, I'm not understanding. Can you please explain me this part? So that I really know that, okay, I have gotten the question. And another thing that I would say, the final thing, that when you solve a question, don't just memorize the question. Really take out the learnings from it. Suppose I solve a question based on graphs. It is not about, hey, I applied a BFS, I traversed the graph, and then I counted the number of nodes and returned it. What made you think that BFS should be first applied? Generally, the hint is that it is a shortest path problem. And BFS explores layer-wise. So you have to really know the algorithm to even think, okay, BFS explores layer-wise. which means the shortest path will be explored definitely. So in any question that is indicating the shortest path is needed, I would need to apply BFS automatically. And once you apply BFS, you should know that what each line, the whole loop running till the queue is empty, why you are running it, so that you don't run it infinitely. You are popping out. You don't forget to pop out the nodes. You actually, in case you are applying Dijkstra algorithm to relax the edges, in any shortest path algorithms to relax the edges. Why you are relaxing edges, you should know, because if you relax n minus 1 times, all the n nodes have already gotten the shortest path. That is why you are relaxing n minus 1 times. And if you relax the nth time, it means some node has been rewritten and it is might have a negative cycle. So if you know the nitty-gritty details, study that during the time period you are given, and you'll automatically be able to tell whatever question the person is asking. He's not asking very outlandish algorithms. He'll just want to check whether you really know the stuff. Whether it is not about asking big, gigantic questions that people have this notion of Google interviews that something very huge will be asked.
Yeah.
They want software engineers, not I think mathematicians who sit in a room and do research. And they need to have practical skills. You are presented with a problem, you need to solve it within a stipulated time. And for that, you really need to know the basics. That is, I think, all they want.
Yeah. Which topics would you feel are the most important for Google?
Graph, dynamic programming, and binary search. Well, coming to binary search is not just searching for a element in a sorted list of elements. It is actually applying the concept of binary search to a problem where you know that it falls in a plane where 0, 0, 0 and 1, 1, 1 actually, you can visualize it.
I think for people who have not seen it, I'll link the binary search course below. I think what he's talking about is the framework we learned.
Yeah, and it is a good framework. And I can just say that whether you can see the partition or not.
Yeah.
If you can visualize the partition, you know that binary search can be applied to this problem.
Yeah.
And for that, you need practice. I think a lot of people, what they usually think, they try to avoid practice a lot. And they think that the more we gather information, the more we read about it, maybe it can substitute practice. But in my opinion, even I have tried that. I've hoarded a lot of material, not really gone through it because the sheer volume overwhelms me. So I think there's no substitute for practice. You have to really practice, see where you are stuck, and go as deep as you can on that. And of course, your mentors will help you. That is what they're there for, to help you pinpoint what your exact lack of or your blind spots are, and actually solve them so that you don't make the same mistakes in the interview itself.
Yep. So this is all about Google. So now you'd be joining. When is the joining date?
I'll be joining in 3 weeks. I think it's 16th of June. It's a Monday.
Nice.
I say on board on Monday.
And which team have you gotten for Google?
Google Photos. It's a wonderful team, I would say. Everybody clicks a lot of pictures and they form memories. And I think they're organizing those memories. The team is basically working towards how to best make use of the memories that you store in the way that is more meaningful to you. I think it would be fun to work with them.
I think you told that they are like almost first time hiring in India right now.
Yes. I was informed that the team is not really based in India. And so I was even more excited that I was selected for it and that I would be working with people across time zones, across cultures. I would get to know people, probably improve my communication skills a bit.
I think you already have good communication skills. That's not an issue.
Thank you.
So I think from here for Google, we know that we need to just read DSA. I think nothing else much matters, right? HR questions and DSA. I think that is all.
HR questions, you need to follow the STAR method. Even if you get stumped with something you have not seen, just using the STAR method will give you enough hint to answer that. They're not looking for perfect solutions. They're looking whether you really can apply your brains to solve a behavior, because it's not just about writing code. You are working with humans, you're not working with machines. And humans come with behavioral problems.
So I mean, suppose you're dealing with your manager, or if you're dealing with your teammates, how would you convey certain things? I mean, these things definitely matter.
See, college mein bakar is a different thing. But you can't be rude, or you can't be condescending, or you can't be sarcastic with your manager or your peers. You have to You have to communicate in a way that you convey your discomfort or you convey your dissatisfaction or you convey your point without coming across as rude. I think that is the key.
Yeah.
I think I have read it somewhere. The best leaders know how to say no. They say no in such a way that you feel that, hey, they didn't actually say no. They say, we'll do it later.
Yeah.
So you also have to learn how to say stuff such that people don't feel that you have rejected them. They feel that there's a strong reason why you're saying what you're saying and that you are actually open to explore other possibilities.
I think we are getting some very good nuggets on communication. Like these are, I think, core concepts of communication and how to improve them properly.
Yeah.
Cool. So, any final advice for people who are sitting across and who would be like aspiring software engineers, people in college? What should they do? How should they do? Anything for them?
Uh,
Something that you would advise to maybe a younger version of.
I was coming to that. Looking back at what I was in college, I was working hard, but maybe I was not presented with the appropriate opportunities at appropriate time. That doesn't mean the opportunities may not come ever. It just means they're delayed. And these are market conditions. You can't control them really. But even if it is not just about DSA, you have to not stop working hard. You have to keep faith that your hard work is actually gonna make a difference. And when the opportunities do come, you know how to grab them and not shy away or reject yourself before the world rejects you.
Yeah.
As I said at the beginning of this video, I didn't have a job for 3 months. I went to my graduation ceremony without a job. I somehow founded my current job through applying through LinkedIn, asking shamelessly to friends to refer me to whatever current organizations they are working for. And a friend of mine referred me to this organization and I got in. I kept studying through my ACL injury. Whenever I found time, I kept studying. And when the opportunity presented itself, I was ready to grab it. I always knew that I am good enough, but that doesn't mean that good enough will come you whenever you want. You have to sometimes keep patience. And life doesn't really work the way you think, and you have to make small adjustments along the way. Whatever life throws at you, you curve through it basically. You have to be like water and not really solid.
Nice. I think on a retrospect, when I think about this is exactly what somebody needs to understand when they are in a tough situation. That many people in this today's time are facing this scenario that for the first time, a big percentage of their batch groups are getting out of colleges where there is no job.
Yes.
And companies also are hiring 1+ years of experience at the fresher level, so they are finding it very, very hard to get a job.
Yeah.
But like being prepared now is going to be probably the best thing that they can do, because in future when they get the opportunity, it should not be like I am not prepared.
I'm not prepared, yes. And I would say, how do I put this in a way that is most clear? As I said, I went to my graduation ceremony without a job. It must feel bad, but then I should remember that it's not because I did something bad. It was a market condition. But at the same time, you should take responsibility for your own circumstances. Bad things do happen. I'm not saying bad things don't happen. Bad things happen, and sometimes you're not responsible for it. They just happen. But if you keep blaming random people or random situations and refuse to work towards improving your situation, you're probably going to get stuck in and it's going to get worse. So just for the sake that it doesn't get worse, and in most cases it does get way better if you keep working. It just doesn't get back to normal, it gets way better. Your hard work really compounds. If you have ever heard about compound interest, it really compounds, it builds on top of each other. So it's not just really that you're building knowledge and you're putting in the practice, and you probably end up somewhere you probably didn't even think you would end up. I never thought that someone who would be jobless at graduation, 3 months, no job, and just somehow was managing, would get into Google. Would you really think that? I don't think so. but that is the reality, and I'm the living proof of it.